So we're going to chat about things, and I'm going to start off picking up on one of the topics you mentioned there, which is, I think for many people in the public, atheists have this sort of reputation for being a little bit down in the world and a little bit pessimistic. Are you, I mean, we're living in quite a difficult time in the moment. Are you optimistic people? Are you optimistic about the future?
Well, I don't know if I'm optimistic. I don't know. I'm happy. I've always been happy. I have. I've always tried to get the most out of life. I worked out early on that was the shortcut I wanted. I just wanted to be happy. I did that first, and then decided how I was going to sort of make a living. Am I optimistic? I mean, I've got nothing to fear. I look at this a bit like a holiday. We don't exist for 13.5 billion years. Then we exist for 80, 90, 100 years, if we're lucky. And you experience everything. It's amazing. I mean, it's amazing to be alive. The chances of us being here, as us, that sperm hitting that egg, is 400 trillion to 1. It's incredible that we're here, you know. And then we die, never to exist again, you know. And some people even get offended by me saying that. They say things like, you don't know that. No, I'll probably live again. You know. Someone said on Twitter once to me, "Why don't you pray just in case there's a God?" And I said, "Why don't you put garlic over your door just in case there's a Dracula?" But I've got no problem with praying. You know, it doesn't bother me. I've never been bothered by spirituality. I don't believe in it, but a personal belief has never been a danger. As I say, religion is something else, and not even just religion, but dogma. Dogma is the dangerous bit, and it doesn't just exist in religion. It exists in more and more places now. That cultism, that which shouldn't be questioned. Anything that, you know, that's what you want to question. If someone says you shouldn't question this, you've got to question it. You've got to question it.
Well, before we started, I did put on Twitter a call for questions, and I'll be dropping in some. Yeah, indeed.
Why are you asking for it?
Well, the first question was to Richard, actually, which is about Charles Darwin created the theory of evolution. How did animals change before that?
No, that's not. That's a joke. That's a joke, isn't it? That is.
You made that up.
I made that one up. I made that one up.
Okay.
No, that's not.
Yeah, but listen. Okay, Right. That is a joke, but it's no more stupid than some real ones. Okay. The one that obviously everyone gets, and I used to be frivolous, and I used to do not. Now I just answer them seriously. If we evolved from apes, why are there still apes around? I used to say things like, well, if God made man from dust, why is there still dust around? And things like, you know. But now I say, well, we didn't evolve from modern apes. We evolved with modern apes from a common ancestor, rather like, and I just answer it deadly serious, like they, you know, it doesn't help. Then someone followed it up with, well, I've been going to the same zoo for 24 years and I haven't seen one monkey turn into a person. But I think, even though that's incredibly stupid, we think, actually, it shows what the problem is when people try and understand it. They can't grasp the scale of it. They can't imagine these tiny changes. No one can imagine 50 million years. So they do expect the chimp to go, come on, lad, get on with it. And that's because they also give it a will. They think, even non-religious people who are trying to understand, they try and think that the giraffe was really stretching his neck, you know. That's the problem. There's lots of little logical problems that hasn't been explained properly. But actually, if I can understand it, anyone can, you know.
So atheism,
yeah.
I can remember, and I don't know whether this has any resonance for you at all, but I can remember listening to you on the radio, and I can't place this. I know it's a long time ago, and I would think it's after the initial success of The Office, I think. And I think it's Steve Wright, but I might be wrong. And he said something like, oh, you must wake up in the morning and say, thank God for my amazing things that are happening. And you said, why would I say thank God? I'm an atheist.
Right.
And it was the first time I'd heard the word atheist on kind of public radio.
Well, I mean, yeah, there shouldn't even be the word, should there? If people didn't invent gods, I wouldn't have to deny them. And it's just... but it's like... I was told when I sort of started breaking America to not mention I was an atheist.
Really?
Oh, first thing I did. On every first thing I did. Why? What am I going to lose? Imagine not doing something because people hate you because of what you are. That's that's my only thing I've got. I'm a white, rich, middle-class man, but at least I'm hated for being an atheist. Do you know what I mean?
And,
I'm oppressed. I'm oppressed in 13 countries I'd never go to anyway.
Have you seen a change in your, over the last, I don't know, 20 years or so, about how atheism is perceived?
Well, I mean, you sort of do it. There's part of me that does it because I think I should, that there is someone being persecuted now that might, I can't change the world, but what I mean, maybe someone in a Western world that thinks they shouldn't come out because it's a bad thing. Because it's still a bad thing in Western society. In America, they took a vote, America, right? Probably that big bit in the middle of America. But we were voted least trustworthy group, joint bottom with rapists. So there's still a thing about, I better not say I'm an atheist, it'll annoy my mum or dad or granddad or school. There's still that. So you do that. Some of it, I do it as an intellectual pursuit, because someone asks me a question, I'd rather give the right answer than the wrong answer. I'd rather tell the truth than lie, because it's easier, I think the big thing, people think I run into churches and go, it's all fucking bollocks. I don't care. But if I'm asked if I believe in God, I'll say no. I mean, the tricky one is I did a film called The Invention of Lying, where I did a scene where 7 people saw that film. Where my mother in that is dying, and it's because I'm the only person in the society who can lie. She says, I don't want to go to nothingness. And I go, there's not nothingness. It's a beautiful place you go, and you're young again. And I invent heaven, right? And that comes from the fact that when my mum was dying, I did face a dilemma. If she'd have said, do you think there's a God? That's a personal thing, and that's So I just try and be honest, really. And the other thing is, if someone else's kid, 5-year-old, asks me, do I believe in God? I sort of think, what should I say here? And I say, well, I don't, but a lot of people do. What do you think? I try and there's still a level of diplomacy. It's not always my place. You know what I mean? Mm. I don't. My house, my rules. If someone asks me something on Twitter, I tell them the truth. It's
And Richard, in the last sort of 20, 30 years, have you seen a change in how atheism is perceived?
I'm not a sociologist. I haven't done the research. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not sure. It would only be a subjective impression. The statistics suggest that we're growing in numbers. Mm. Obviously in Western Europe, but also even in America, I think the number of people who claim no religion in the United States is now more than 20%, which is large compared to any particular religious denomination. So I think that the statistics show that the trend is in the right direction. But as Ricky says, other polls show that we're down there with rapists in terms of public...
I think they have to lump us in with, agnostics, which I keep trying to explain that on Twitter, that they're not mutually exclusive. One deals with knowledge, one deals with belief. And so, people say on Twitter to me, it's illogical to be an atheist, you should be agnostic. And I say, well, I am as well.
Don't agnostics get on your nerves a bit?
Well, no, because we're all agnostic, aren't we? We're all agnostic by definition. If we accept that no one knows knowledge, I'm being very diplomatic here, but if we accept that no one knows that there's a God or not, right? We might be wrong. We're 99% sure, you know. But let's say we don't know. We're all agnostic. So take it out of it doesn't matter. Now we ask about belief. What do you believe? What's your best bet?
But when someone says they're agnostic, isn't it sort of tempting to go, why don't you just think about it a bit more then? Because
Well, I just think that there's a category mistake. Some people do it because they don't want to say they believe in God, you know. But if you shouldn't ask an agnostic if there's a God or not. You should ask them, do you believe there's a God or not? Because then they can't say I don't know, because that doesn't make sense. What do you mean? You don't know whether you believe or not, right? You know, so
That's right.
Yeah.
I think the really sick-making thing is people who think because they're agnostic and we can't know for sure, therefore the likelihood is 50-50.
Yeah.
Very different. I mean, it's you know, I'm agnostic, but I believe that the likelihood is about 1% or less.
that's not really agnostic, is it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, if we accept that we don't know, if it's a default, we don't know, no one's come back from heaven, no one's proved it. You can't prove the non-existence of something, and why would you? The periodic table of non-existent things is infinite, you know. It's like... so if we accept that, that's a knowledge, that's a category of knowledge. But if you just say, what do you believe? You have to step up to the plate. You have to say what you believe. And if you don't believe in any God, right, you're an atheist. That's the other misconception. People think that atheism is denying the existence of God, right? It's not. It's just not accepting the claim that there is a God. You know.
But if there were 3 doors, which was God exists, God doesn't exist, I don't know.
That doesn't make sense.
There's 3 doors. It says God exists, but doesn't exist, I don't know.
But you not knowing is irrelevant to where there is or isn't a God. Again, you've done a sleight of hand there on a category mistake, because 1 is knowledge and 2 are beliefs, right?
I haven't even finished my question.
No, what? No, there's always... I'm saying 3 is always there. If you had to choose one...
Yeah.
It's I believe there's a God. I don't believe there's a God. I don't know is irrelevant then, isn't it?
Richard, there are 3 doors. I believe in God. I don't...
I suppose that works if you say which answer sums you up most. That's allowed, I think.
What, with the 3 doors?
Yeah, there is no God, there is a God I don't know. I'd go for there is no God, because I'd identify with choosing that door. But there's still a category mistake, because 1 deals with knowledge and 1 deals with belief. So,
and sticking with your work for the moment, if there was a weird parallel universe where you could only have written 1 book or only made 1 television series or film, which one would you be most happy with?
I'd probably go with the Old Testament. Just because of how popular it was and how well it sold.
You did phenomenally well with that.
Just think how rich, I mean, because I'd do better marketing and I'd do better deals.
Yeah.
Than those goat herders did. I'd have a top US agent, and yeah.
I heard I was listening to a Woody Allen routine, which is the vodka routine. And he said, my rabbi's terrible, my rabbi's terrible. He's giving a sermon, he forgot the 10 Commandments and listed the 7 dwarfs. That was a great joke. Anyway, I digress. So we were chatting beforehand, I was checking with some friends, and one of the questions came up about comedy and the fact that we couldn't think of many, if any, comedians who were religious. I'm not asking for example, I'm just saying, do we think it's a thing that most stand-ups tend to be agnostic or atheist or...
I think so. I think that's because a lot of comedians are critical thinkers. I think a lot of them are science-based.
They're intelligent.
Well, I don't want to... Well, yeah. But then, you know, a lot of religious people are intelligent, but they've been got at an early age. And it's like, I think they're braver. Some people, there's still a thing of not saying I'm an atheist because people think that it's a bad thing to be. You know, parents still christen their kids instead of school because they think it's a respectable thing to do. You know, that's sad, but I get it. There's a couple though. They don't put it in their act. I don't think. Tim Vine is very devout Christian.
Yes, true. Yes. But in general, they tend to be, I think, more skeptical or
I think that's because they look at things from all angles and they come up with funny ideas. And I look at the idea, and I think that's what's wrong, and that's what dogma does, is that people try and give ideas human rights, so you leave them alone. And you don't have to. You can ridicule ideas without hurting anyone. And some people say...
That deserves a round of applause.
Oh, thank you. And they found it shuts some people up. If they say, that's hurt, you can be accused of racism or anything if you criticize an idea. And it's people jumping in the way of a bullet and saying, why are you shooting at me? And it comes back to Richard's point that I'm offended. That's not an argument. It's not an argument. It's like me being offended if someone takes the mickey out of maths. It's like, go on, yeah, fine, yeah. Do you know what I mean? You can laugh at maths. It doesn't affect maths. It doesn't affect maths.
And in terms of changing minds, in terms of getting people to be more skeptical or rational or scientific, both of you enormously influential, but with two different ways. Obviously, you're using comedy a lot of the time, and you're depending more on factual arguments. How does that play out? Is that playing to the same audiences? Do you think it's equally persuasive?
Well, I think Richard's more driven in his thing than I am. But what do you think about changing minds? What do you think?
I'm known to be not very good at it. I tend to just, as you were saying earlier, Ricky, I tend to just tell the truth. And that isn't always the right way to go about it. Marketing wouldn't approve, I suspect, of just simply going out and telling the truth. I had a rather nice encounter with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who said something like, you just put it out there. You don't, there's no act of persuasion, there's no act of seduction going on. You just simply say, here are the facts, take it or leave it. And I had to say, I said, I gratefully accept the rebuke, but I then went on to say, I'm not the worst of that. And I quoted Alan Anderson, who was then the editor of New Scientist, who said, I asked him what your policy is at New Scientist, and he said, our policy at New Scientist is science is interesting, and if you don't agree, you can fuck off.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly, yeah. Yeah, in the greater scheme of things, there are probably worse things than people believing in all the different gods. It doesn't affect me because I'm free and liberated and safe. But yeah, you can still be annoyed. It's ignorance that annoys me more than anything. Whatever it is, it's not. I don't want to keep going after religion because that's only one form of this belligerent, willful, and it's not even that. It's you can't sort of help what you believe in. Most people aren't going around thinking this will annoy people or I'm trying to oppress people's rights. They just think I believe in God because that's how my brain worked when I was little, and now I think yeah, there's probably a God. And most religious people aren't crazy. It's something else. Again, it's something we worry about the people who believe the bad bits in their holy book as well as the good bits. Most nice people who believe in God, they can tell the difference. They know the nice bits, they cherry pick and they know the nice bits from the bad bits. They don't do the bad bits. And my point is, if you know the bad bits from the good bits, you don't need the holy book. You're already a moral person. I think that's really important, and it comes back to the point we made earlier about ideas not having human rights, because I think people think when we criticize religion, we're criticizing people who are religious, which couldn't be further from the truth, because we think they're victims too.
Absolutely. I mean, the word Islamophobia is all about that. people think that if you criticize Islam, you're criticizing Muslims. Quite the contrary, they're the primary victims of Islam.
Well, yeah.
You guys asked for him for a third time, and here he is, the man who's made atheism not just persuasive but hilarious. Though in this video he maintains a calmer, serious demeanor as he is not under any pressure to have a punchline at the end of his sentences. Anyway, after the roaring success of our last deep dives into George Carlin and Bill Barr's takedowns of Christianity, it's time to talk about Ricky Gervais's takedown of Christianity a third time, man. He is without a doubt the smug, sarcastic, and undeniably brilliant comedian who's become one of the most fearless voices in modern atheism. And though it's not quite obvious in today's video, Gervais doesn't usually just question religion, he mocks it relentlessly, unapologetically, and with the kind of cheeky grin that makes even believers laugh before they realize they've been hard, man. And like most other atheists, his arguments aren't just about mocking, they're about exposing the sheer absurdity of faith with a punchline so sharp it leaves dogma bleeding on the floor, and audiences like you and I love him for it. And who will blame us, man? Think about his famous Golden Globes monologues where he roasted Hollywood elites and religious hypocrites with equal glee. It proved that Gervais doesn't tiptoe around sacred cows, he slaughters them on stage and serves them up as satire, man. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, Gervais isn't just a provocateur. He's a thinker. His atheism isn't lazy rebellion, it's rooted in a simple, unshakable commitment to reality. Like Christopher Hitchens, in interviews and debates, Gervais has distilled his arguments into a single, devastating question. Name one moral action performed by a believer that couldn't be done by an atheist, and one moral action justified by scripture that an atheist couldn't reject. The silence that usually follows is the sound of religious logic collapsing under its own weight. And let's not forget the invention of lying. His underrated comedy that skewers religion as the ultimate con in a world where no one can lie. Gervais's character accidentally invents deception and soon realizes he can use it to comfort his dying mother by inventing heaven. It's a brilliant, biting allegory of how religion preys on fear and wishful thinking. Of course, the twist is that his lie spirals out of control, creating dogma, rules, and even a man in the sky who hates certain people. Which basically sounds familiar, doesn't it, man? And what makes Gervais so effective and why audiences cheer him on alongside the likes of George Carlin and Bill Barr is that he weaponizes humor to say what others want. While new atheists like Dawkins and Hitchens went to war with theology, Gervais laughs at it, and laughter is kryptonite to authority, as you and I know. Because when people giggle at the idea of a 6,000-year-old earth or a virgin birth, faith loses its intimidation factor and it becomes what it always was or was meant to be, a fairy tale, man. So yeah, that's it for today. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video as well. I really hope that I'll see you in the next one that I'll upload probably the day after tomorrow. Yeah, I think I'll upload this video on a Friday, so yeah, no, the next video will be on a Monday, man. So thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace, man.